Grab your favorite caffeinated beverage and get cozy because you are listening to Mindful as a Mother with Paige Bruce and Lindsay Adams. Hello and welcome back to Mindful as a Mother. My name is Lindsay Adams and I'm here with
Paige.
And we are on our podcast weekend. Woo-woo.
Yeah, which for those that are new this season, go listen to the other seasons and follow us on social media. But podcast weekend is when we meet to record a bunch of podcasts at the same time because we enjoy doing them together versus online, and we live in different states.
Yes, and this has nothing to do with our topic today, but what did you listen to on the way here?
True crime.
Yeah, me too. I did listen to a podcast called, now I can't remember the name. It was so good. I was like, I've got to talk about this.
I listened to Buried Bones.
Buried Bones.
Which is like historical crime looked at from a modern day perspective.
Okay, Body Brokers. And it is about an unhinged funeral home and funeral home owner.
Ooh, send that to me.
Okay, it's good.
How are they unhinged?
I don't want to spoil it too much, but if you give it to me. The lady that worked there was petrified. This is the first interview she's ever given, and it was I think maybe 20 years ago, maybe less. And she moved out of the state because of this funeral home lady.
Out of the state?
Yes, and it's something I'm still in the first episode, but it's got something to do with, I think, selling dead bodies or...
Ooh, probably their parts on the black market.
Yeah, and because they did a little teaser visual of going into the, I think they call it the morgue or the freezers, and there's unorganized, not tagged bodies piled on top of each other. The other thing I thought is, I know that there are mortuaries. This is dark, guys. My brain is dark and the things I'm into are dark, but that you can on the black market pay someone to take a body off of your hands because they cremate.
Oh, that's black web shit.
Yeah. So
the dark web.
I think it's gonna be good.
Is that the only thing you listen to?
No,
this drive, I mean.
No, I also listen to a couple Bravo podcasts because
Real Housewives.
Very into the Bravo.
Very into Bravo. Shout out Monica. We stan a queen.
Yeah. We're here for Real Housewives.
We're here for it. We're here for exposing fraud.
Yeah, she said Davis County mom, which is the same county that I live in. So I'm always yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So today we are going to finish discussion on, kind of, because the stress cycle never really finishes. We're going to teach you how to finish the stress cycle today. Mm-hmm. So last episode, we talked through what it is, how being stuck in the stress cycle could lead to burnout, what burnout is, how that impacts your life, kind of stressors in our modern day society that can lead us to enter the stress cycle and how we can get stuck.
I also wanted to make a connection or add a point that I don't know was super clear in the first episode. And I took a nap now, and I actually thought of this during my nap, and I was like, I need to bring this up. I think it's important to note that if we don't feel things, they get stuck in our bodies, body keeps the score, trapped emotion shit. Mm-hmm. And so, it's my first swear word this season. I don't know what to do.
No, you swore last podcast.
Oh, I did?
You did. I'm here for it.
Did I say the F word? What did I say?
No, I think it was just shit.
I'm really trying to say the F word less this season, but
I'm not.
Okay. Paige is trying to say it more, and I'm trying to say it less, and we'll probably end up about on the same page. But I think it's important to note that if you don't close the stress cycle, you will eventually have to close the stress cycle somewhere.
Something happens.
Yes, and those emotions become stuck or trapped, and they stay there. It's when it gets trapped in the tunnel, it doesn't come out of the tunnel until we do something.
Until we make it come out.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is a lot of what we're going to be talking about today, which are evidence-based ways to close the stress cycle. Mm-hmm. But again, that intuitive piece of being able to tune inward. Sorry, I had to stutter there. Turn inward and really listen to your intuition to get familiar with that body awareness, because your body always tells you first. Your body tells you when you're experiencing an emotion before your brain will, mm-hmm. and it will also tell you when you close the stress cycle before your brain will.
Mm-hmm. 100%.
Again, so this is Burnout, The Secret to Unlocking the Stress Cycle by Emily and Amelia Nagoski. So please, it's on Audible, it's on Kindle, it's paperback, it's hard copy.
And guys, literally, I'm not joking or like just saying this. Paige was like, the first 2 episodes are going to be from this book. And I was like, okay, can I borrow it to read it? Because I thought, I'll just read the first part and whatever. And then I'm like, can I keep this? I want to read the whole thing.
Yeah. It's so good.
Yeah.
And that wasn't even planned and in unison. So if that doesn't sell you,
nothing will.
Yeah. Hey, so this is it. A lot of us aren't going to love this, but you know what the single most effective way to close your stress cycle?
Well, wait, do you want me to say? Because I actually do. Because I read.
Did you know it before you read it, though?
No, but I would have guessed.
You would have.
Yeah.
If you had to pick one.
But
before you were a mental health professional, would you have picked one?
No.
Not at all. It is physical activity.
Yeah. The reason I thought that is because when we talk about the nervous system and the more I've been learning about the nervous system, it's been like that our body's reaction, it's called fight or flight for a reason, and there are physical movements to both of those things.
Yeah.
And when we talk about trauma and emotions being stored in our hips, your hips tense up to either fight or flight. And so I thought that like movement, physical activity, and it's something that we talk a lot about in terms of kids, like regulation for kids, physical activity is the best thing that they can do if they will do it. There's other options, but it's the best thing.
Yeah.
And so that's how I got to, it's probably physical activity.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think about when we're talking, yes, the stress cycle for trauma, but I specialize in neurodivergence and anxiety. And anxiety is also the stress cycle. It's the stress cycle, period. Mm-hmm. And so when you're coming in or out of anxious states, like a panic attack, some people, their body shakes uncontrollably. That is your body trying to move through the stress cycle. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so it's like your body is trying to give you what it needs to help you move through this. And a lot of us fight it because it feels like we're out of control. But if you actually like shake, like your body starts to shake because you're having panic, shake it like a dog kind of out of the bathtub. If you shake it, then your body will move through closing that stress cycle sooner.
Well, this is why animals shake. Like dogs shake when they like are anxious or they're closing their stress cycles. It's like evolutionarily. Is that a word? I think it is.
It is.
Like from an evolutionary perspective, we are animals at our core, which is why we're talking about this. Our modern world is not always conducive to the fact that we're animals.
Yeah.
And so some of those things we've conditioned out of ourselves, like shaking, but yeah it's good. It works.
But it's necessary.
Necessary.
So let me ask you this. This is just a side quest here.
Oh, okay. This wasn't in my notes to prepare for this?
No.
Okay, good.
Stimming.
All right.
So let's talk about like physical manifestations of stimming for self-regulation.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that's part of the evolutionary process of moving through the stress cycle?
Yeah.
Just thinking about that. So like
it is
when we try to keep our autistic children or friends and individuals from physically stimming outside of harming themselves or someone else, you are limiting their ability. Yeah, you're blocking their ability to come out of that tunnel. Mm-hmm. So, little side quest there.
And when we talk about like vocal stimming, I think something a lot of people don't recognize, because it's like not common knowledge, and it wasn't even for me until the last few years, is that our vocal cords have a lot to do with regulation, and that's why they say like humming, singing, your vagus nerve, like putting ice on it, doing the things, right?
Yeah.
And so when we talk about kids who are vocal stimming or making weird sounds, or who are like yelling or getting loud when making sounds, there's probably an aspect of that is.
Yes, absolutely. So the vagus nerve is actually a nerve that starts at the base of your skull and travels down your spine, and along the way it touches most of your major organs. And because of that, the vagus nerve actually sends 80% of the information to your brain from your body. So when you're experiencing dysregulation, your anxiety, stress, any kind of intense emotion, your vagus nerve is activated. And so when you gurgle or hum or sing, it stimulates the vagus nerve along with all these other things that we'll talk about. And it's really a trial and error situation. But because of the stimulation of the vagus nerve, what that does is it signals to your body to turn off the biological response that is the stress response. So it's like, oh, all this stress juice or these, I usually call it like a cocktail, like you're getting drunk, like, and you're just like taking shots. Your body yaddy is like, no more. And it stops and you start to sober up more or less. So it's like, oh, we're going to move out of the stress response and we're going to start to digest those chemicals. So vocal stimming activates the vagus nerve, which moves us out of fight or flight and into a hopefully calmer state of being. That was science.
Science. You got you started talking faster. You were very excited the second I said vagus nerve. You were I'm the vagus nerve. For the vagus
because
nerve.
I do so much education around the vagus nerve. Seriously, every day in my sessions. And a lot of my clients are like, that's not a thing. And I'm like, this is science.
This is science.
this is science.
Is real.
Okay, so physical activity is going to be your single most effective way to close your stress cycle. And they said 20 to 60 minutes on average is ideal for most people. And it doesn't have to be overly strenuous, but something that increases your heart rate a little bit, gets some movement going. It's going to be your first line of attack, more or less, against burnout. And so people are like, my non-exercisers are like, hell nah, I'm not going to do that. And then they're like, but why every day? And it makes sense. We're encountering chronic stress every single day in modern society without an effective way to signal that we're done, except physical movement.
And this is why, and I'm new to a more structured exercise routine. I'm only 4 weeks in. So, but there's a reason why people work out for their mental health. This is what's happening, guys. There's other hormones and chemicals and serotonin and stuff like that. But part of it is that you're closing stress cycles. And so you sleep better, you feel more relaxed, you feel more grounded and present and all the things. And I think especially for neurodivergent people who we tend to have more sensitive nervous systems, meaning we're probably in fight or flight. We go into it easier or stay in it longer.
Yeah. And so actually one of my personal goals is to get one of those walking pads. Have you seen those walking pads? It's like a little treadmill, but I can store it under my couch or I want one.
That's so your speed, dude.
It is. I think I'm going to buy one for myself this weekend.
You are?
Yeah. I'm going to Amazon it. And
It'll
maybe
be there
I'll
when
get
you get
here in
back.
a couple weeks. No. Amazon doesn't work that fast where I live. I wish.
Your husband literally delivers Amazon.
I know.
Is it okay that I shared that? Sorry, I didn't know.
Yeah, it's fine. He's a UPS driver.
He's the men in brown.
Yes. The Zaddy in the brown.
Yeah.
Package car.
And his name is
Zane. Yeah. I always call him Zaddy.
That is perfect.
Because I'm a child on the inside.
So is he, so it works.
Okay, so yeah, physical exercise. Also one of these things that I just love a little added spice, scientific spice. If you exercise in the day and you do sleep better, when you hit a specific cycle within your sleep, your brain goes through a dishwasher rinse. I don't know if you know this, Lindsay. But okay, so there's this specific protein in your brain and it goes through, you hit this specific REM cycle and then basically spinal fluid,
didn't we talk about this on the podcast last season?
I don't know.
I feel like we did.
Maybe. Okay, so here we are. I'm repeating this information.
No, that's how I know about it.
I'm I don't remember.
Okay.
What did we even
Talk to me about the dishwasher.
Yesterday? Anyway, so what happens is your brain goes through this rinse cycle where it eliminates the specific protein that keeps your inability to function, more or less. It's like the stress. It rinse cycles the stress. And so what they found in studies is that individuals that are able to get an effective night's sleep are less likely to later develop those degenerative brain diseases like Alzheimer's, dementia, executive functioning. It has improved, that's not a brain disease or anything, but it improves your ability to use your executive functions.
That's awesome. I'm a sleeper. I do not function well.
Yeah, without sleep, same. But some people are like, let's not sleep. And I'm like, that's not me.
I will never.
I can't function. Yeah, I need 9 hours. Anyways, physical activity. So we're going to get into like my non-exercisey friends that are like, I will absolutely not. I hated it. It makes me angry. I feel you. There are at least 5 other ways that you can effectively close your stress cycle. You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. So these ones are evidence-based. Again, trial and error, and this is where really learning how to tune into your body to close your stress cycle is important, because evidence-based just means that they've spent a bunch of time and money researching to publish these. It doesn't mean that these are the only ones available. So the first one is breathing.
Yes, patterned breathing, breath work.
Yes. So deep, slow breaths down regulate the stress response is like the fancy way to say it, like calms you down. It ends the stress cycle, especially when your exhale is long and slow and goes all the way to the end of the breath. I think when we talk about deep breathing, I don't know if you run into this, but a lot of people that I work with are like, it doesn't work for me. And I'm like, well, let me watch you breathe.
Like, we need to be breathing through our belly.
Yeah, there's a specific way that you need to breathe in order to stimulate the vagus nerve. And when people are like, oh, I'm taking deep breaths, like a lot of the times you're not actually stimulating the vagus nerve because you haven't been taught how to do it.
So what is the breath count? Or like, they didn't give one.
They don't give one, no. But they said that your belly needs to contract. So if you're a yogi or you do a lot of breath work, it's the belly button reaches the spine. Is kind of like the visual where you're just out of breath as much as possible, and you're like bringing your belly in back to your spine as much as possible, and then even trying to exhale a little bit more.
Okay.
But then they talk about breathing specifically. If you're already deep in the stress cycle, this is going to be the least effective way to end your stress cycle consistently for long-term results.
Got it.
So it's like, if you're starting to feel anxious or you're starting to feel emotional, you'll do some patterned breathing. Or towards the end of like the big peak of it, you'll do some breathing. But breathing also interrupts the biological process in the body. Okay. 2, positive social interaction.
Love this, which is interesting because a lot of what happens when we go into fight or flight is our whole system is set to believe that everything outside of us is dangerous and we either need to run or create conflict with that in modern times. And so the positive social connection really goes back to like, oh, I'm safe here. It reminds us that we're safe here.
Yeah, like there's good in the world. It's like the reminder. So today when I was extra anxious or like dysregulated because of everything going on, I called Lindsay. And then Lindsay and I like laughed. Like, oh my gosh, I just went through the same thing. Like, it was a positive social interaction. Casual and friendly. It's like the world is safe.
Yes. And so finding someone, multiple people probably in your life that can be that for you. And it has to be someone that you don't feel like you'll be judged or you're going to be on guard. Yeah.
So yesterday I picked up my kids from school because they have skiing right afterwards. They're in a ski program right now to learn downhill skiing because I don't know what I'm doing, but we live in like a ski place.
Paige's town is so cool, you guys. Utah does not have this.
It's like Park City, but in Idaho.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I work for the people that live in Park City. Like, I'm not a Park Cityan. If you're Utah local, you'll understand that. So they had just gotten back from a field trip. And then I was like, cool, grab your stuff, get in the car. We make it not even 2 minutes down the road. And my oldest kid is like wailing that she has to pee. And I'm on a highway. There's like one lane in each direction, nowhere to stop for another 2.5 minutes. And in my mind, I'm like, I know you've had to pee for a while and you just had to wait until the sense of urgency was so bad you couldn't deny it because neurodivergent. So I'm like annoyed. Trying not to be annoyed with her outwardly, but I'm annoyed. So I'm like, okay, I'm almost to the gas station, then I'll pull over. And as I'm pulling into the parking lot of the gas station, she's like, oh, I peed my pants. It's everywhere. And I was like, did you pee a little bit? Or like a lot? It's like a lot.
Like, are we talking like a couple drips here? Like what? So did you have to go back and get more clothes? Like I need to know details. Yes. Okay.
So we had to turn around and skiing had already started. I was like already prepping. I was like, we're just going to be late.
Better to arrive late and regulated than on time. On time. Yeah, and with pee in your pants.
With pee in your pants. Even though only cool kids pee their pants. Name that movie.
I'm not good with movie quotes.
I'm going to wait. I want someone to DM us.
Wait,
name that movie. Okay. Yeah, I'll tell you after. So I turn around and it's like another 5 to 7 minutes back to our house.
The wailing simply would have gotten me. It is sound. I'm so sound sensitive that the whining and wailing is, I am immediately in fight or flight. And then I'm like, I need to white knuckle this, like, till I can get a second.
And I think a common response that a lot of people have, and I've noticed in myself, is I begin the lecturing, even though it doesn't help, right? So I'm like,
why didn't you pee before?
This is why I tell you, as soon as you feel like you need to pee, you need to go, because I can't always pull over. And so I just stopped myself mid-sentence, and I just like white knuckled it more or less, because she was in the back seat and couldn't see me, because I was really dysregulated.
Was she wearing, this is so detailed, I'm sorry. Was she wearing snow pants?
Yes.
Because I'm thinking of the nightmare of children in snow pants.
She had 2 pairs of pants and snow pants.
You're trying to get her pants down. I'm sorry, it's not funny.
And she was like, oh, it's inside of my boots. So like that tells you.
I'm only laughing because I totally relate.
It's like, I was like, this is so much pee. And then we're like almost to the house. And she's like, oh, it's like, it's made the seat wet. And I'm like, the number of layers she was wearing, like how much pee was this? And why wouldn't you just go? Okay, so.
What is that show? Oh my gosh. It's going to come back to me. It's probably the same one.
I was losing
Dumb and Dumber, where he pees on the motorcycle. That's all I could think of. I'm just letting it go.
We reference Dumb and Dumber so much. So if you guys haven't seen that yet, please watch it. So she's like, I'm sorry, Mom, like crying. And so I'm like, I'm not mad at you. It's like,
I'm mad that you didn't pee.
Just need to go home and put on clean clothes and get ourselves ready for skiing. She's like, okay. And I know my reaction at this point is either going to induce shame and increase her emotional state, or I can like send her off regulated and happy, right?
Well, what are you going to do about it? She's already peed her pants at that point. Like,
I know, but
there's no point in making it worse. And that's what's hard in the moment, is because your brain is so activated that you literally cannot see logic and reason. Sometimes Tim will be like, Lindsay, are you freaking serious? And I'm like, yes, it's in. And then I'm like, oh God, my brain lied to me.
Right? And so I'm like, my instinct is just the lecturing, the like, I really don't like it when you pee yourself, like on and on and on.
Now I got a carpet clean the van.
List of things they need to do as soon as she gets home to make herself ready to go. And I just like consciously make an effort to keep my mouth shut. Like, that is what I put my effort and energy into. So we get to the house, and then I notice everything is making me angry. Like, someone's parked in the space that I like to park at my house.
Assholes.
Immediately angry. Like, we go inside, and I was like, where are your extra pair of snow pants? She's like, I don't know. And then she put her clothes in the washing machine and her boots. So then I was like, where are your boots? We're going to go. And she's like, I put them in the washer. And I was like, okay. And then I was like, where are your gloves? And she had lost them. And I'm like, why do we not have any of our snow gear? And you just go home and to school and back home. So I don't understand where all this stuff is. And like, I'm so...
It's in their cubby at school.
So I just like... No, I checked the cubby when I was there. So I just sat in the chair and I waited, because in my mind I told myself she knew what she needed to do to get ready to go. And then we would go. And it is like...
What are your other kids doing at this point?
Well, my littlest was watching TV. She was watching a show with her auntie. And then my middle kiddo was in the van when the pee incident happened, because I picked them both up from the same school.
Oh, I was going to say my other two would be like adding to the chaos of the situation. And then it becomes more activating, because it's like, Mom, what are we going to do? Mom, I have one that's like lots of questions. Like, oh, well, she peed her pants, and she's like very panicked about the situation. And I'm so activated that it's hard for me to like be calm enough to be like, I've got it, dude. Like, it's going to be okay.
Right?
We'll figure
I'm
this
like,
out.
this is going to be fine. So we find
Just don't talk to mommy. Just don't talk.
I was like, so in this, I was like, where are your snow pants? I don't have any more. And I was like, okay, well, ask your sister if you can borrow hers. And she's like, can I borrow yours? And she's like, I don't know where mine are. So then I'm like, where are all the extra snow pants in the house? And I'm like, I'm mad. And so I just keep my mouth shut and I sit down and I just wait, like anxiously waiting. And I don't give her any more reminders of the things she needs to do. And she even like went out, she's like, I still have to clean the seat in the car. And I was like, yep, the stuff's out there waiting for you. And so she like cleaned the seat in the car and then put it all in the trash can. And then we like start driving to skiing, which is like a 15-minute drive. And I'm just like, I'm holding it all in. I'm like breathing.
Oh, you're like flipping people off.
Doing my best, trying not to speed because I'll get a ticket for real. And then she's just like la 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 la, like talking to me about stuff, and I could tell that she was more regulated. And then even to the point where we get to the lodge, and she's like, "Can you carry this stuff?" And I was like, "Nope. You know how to carry it all. Like, you got to be responsible for your own ski gear." And she's like, "Okay." And then she's like, "Can you please stay while I get dressed, though?" And I was like, "Okay." And she put on all her gear, and then she, like, goes off to the mountain. She's like, "Bye, love you." And is, like, blowing me kisses. And I'm like, "Love you, too. Have fun. See you in an hour." I get in the car, and I immediately call my husband to tell him how annoyed I am. I was like, I need a positive social interaction before I go home and parent my other children. Because I just was like, you'll not believe what just happened. And it was, like, an hour round trip because of this incident, when normally would have taken, like, 15 minutes, an hour. And I was like, I can't. I've just been holding it and waiting. And I have been, it's in my tunnel. Because if I let it out of the tunnel,
you're going to cause damage.
Yeah, like I would have
That's so much of motherhood, though. Like, I feel like if I let it out of the tunnel, I'm going to, like, create years of therapy or ruin my marriage. Which sometimes, I mean, the safest place for it to come out is usually in my marriage. Love you, Tim. Sorry about that. But, because, like, there's, like, he gets it and he loves me. I also want to add, though, that I think this is why motherhood does create, or parental burnout is a thing, is because we spend so much time going through these things, right? And then there's not a safe space to express how annoying and frustrating certain parts of motherhood or behaviors, even though we love our kids. Like, at the end of the day, like, no matter how annoyed Paige is with her kids, I know that, like, she loves them more than anything, and it is literally just a stress cycle. But there's a lot of shame that comes with maybe the feelings that come up or the frustration that comes up with kids. Or if we express them to an unsafe person or, like, not a positive social interaction, the feedback is, you'll miss this one day. Or
be grateful you even have that.
Be grateful you even have that. And all of the things, right? And so I think that's, you know, when we talk perfection culture in motherhood, we talk about, like, being real and transparent. This is a real piece, because that positive social interaction and that connection that comes from that is regulating. And as humans, we need that.
Yeah. It's just like when you help your kids regulate, it's called co-regulation. Yeah. Like, there's a reason there's safe attachment people in our lives that we can talk to for that co-regulation piece. Like, and Zane's one of my go-tos, right? He's the father of my children. So he totally understood. And then I was just, like, laughing. And there's this kind of, like, teeter-totter in my brain, because I get hypercritical when I'm angry or stressed or, like, in the middle of a transition. Yeah. And so he does morning routine. He is responsible for making sure the kids have their snow pants and their gloves.
This is how I ruined my marriage, guys. Yeah. I'd be like, you did it, man.
Right? And so I consciously was aware and, like, that those were thoughts, and then chose not to speak into those, but talked about how all of the circumstances. Like, I'm not angry that she peed, or even that she held it, because I also am like, well, after a minute, right, of, like, this social interaction, I was like, well, she did just get back from a field trip. And then I immediately was like, get your stuff and let's go. So she went from driving in a van on a field trip to in my car. Like, there was no space, pause, or opportunity for her to be like, oh, I'm going to the bathroom first. So I was like, I'm aware of that too, right? So sometimes there isn't a why. There isn't a reason of, like, I'm just so fucking pissed off. It just, we exist.
You said that for
I said it. But we're just existing. And emotions are allowed to exist without necessarily needing like a resolution or a why, you know, but we need to be able to close that cycle.
And your emotions are normal. I think a lot of people, especially toxic positivity culture, is that we need to be like happy all the time.
Human giver syndrome.
High vibe, which
Always
is like another
happy,
way.
Always grateful.
And it's okay to be angry and frustrated, right? Like, and what we actually need to do is learn to regulate and self-soothe so that our behaviors aren't all over the place and we're not creating damage around us and to ourselves, right?
Yes.
But that feeling of frustration is totally normal.
Yes. And when we're talking about feelings of emotion or shame, this is like one of my own tried and true things I try to remind myself of. And so I just want to throw it out there. Whatever emotion you're experiencing, if it's mom guilt or if it's shame, however much space that's taking up for you, there's also enough room for the opposite. So I'm like, if I'm feeling big shame, then I'm like, okay, both things are existing at the same time and I'm only focusing on one. So what is the opposite? Like, there's always space for both.
Yes. And even just recognizing, that's why gratitude's a thing. Like, just recognizing the opposite, right?
Yeah.
In that moment. Even if it's to say, you know what? I'm so proud of myself that I bit my tongue for 20 minutes driving back in the car, right?
Yeah. I could honestly say that I was proud of myself for being able to send her off, like smiling and blowing kisses onto her next activity when I know that it, like, there's an alternate reality I used to live where it would have been the opposite, right? Okay, so the third one. So we did breathing and we did positive social interactions. Another one is laughing and laughing together with people.
Love this.
I love it. And really the only thing that this book says is that throughout the research, there's a neuroscientist, actually her name is Sophie, so go girls. But she talks about how laughing is an ancient evolutionary system that mammals have evolved to make and maintain social bonds and regulate emotions.
I love it.
So like basically we had developed laughter throughout time to have those bonds and to regulate.
And I love like a deep laugh. Like a like sometimes I cackle. You heard it like 10 minutes ago. And that for me is like a real laugh. That's not like a fake, like it's like a real belly laugh.
Yeah. Another one is affection.
Yeah.
Yeah. So most often this is like loving and being loved by someone who likes and respects and trusts you, and that you also like and respect and trust. It doesn't always have to be physical affection, even though physical affection is part of it, like a warm hug or a kiss. It can be any sort of like affection. They do talk about kissing.
The 6 second kiss.
The 6 second
kiss. I tried it on Tim and I think he thought I was trying to have sex with him. Yeah.
Well, that's affection too.
Yeah, and that does regulate your stress cycle, just so you know. Like the orgasms, right?
Yeah.
But I was like, I'm gonna try this out. So I try it out, and I think he thought I was trying to have sex, and I didn't say like I'm actually just trying to regulate my stress.
I'm just conducting an experiment for science.
It actually did work though. Like I felt calmer afterward.
Yeah, and so then they also talk about the 20-second hug, where each person is supporting their own body weight, but you're still hugging, and 20 seconds can be like a really long time, but it's intentional. And the whole idea of a 6 second kiss is, they talked about 6 seconds is far too long to kiss someone that you don't like. So it's like reassures your body that they are a safe, trusting person that you like. But yeah, Zane the other day just hugged me and I like tried to let go and he's like, not yet. And it was at least 20 seconds, but I can definitely feel a difference in my body. You know, and I do that with my kids too.
I'm like very physically affectionate with my kids, but in relationship, I'm not like very naturally affectionate. So it's something I've been working on anyway, but also noticing the benefits. Like the more I do it, the more I want to do it, because I do notice how good it feels.
Yeah. I love that. And a lot of people aren't naturally physically affectionate, whether their childhood and upbringing or general sensory preferences. Like there's a wide range of reasons, but acknowledging that there is a process that happens in the body when Like, that's a safe, trusted person. And they even said it doesn't have to be people, which I love.
Pets are the best.
Yeah, cats, rabbits, pets in general. I even think I would put it down to like stuffies.
Yes, and that's this why I think so many neurodivergent. Oh, I knocked the microphone over. If you heard something, sorry about that. Many neurodivergent kids are very attached to stuffies, and I think that there's a piece in this because something that. Okay, I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. Our nervous systems are always moving towards regulation.
Yeah.
On an unconscious level. And so the things that we are more attracted to, the sensory experiences that help us regulate all of those things, we are more drawn to. And so if a child is like very into stuffies, it's probably regulating for them in some way. Yeah. That's what I was trying to say. Yes.
I definitely notice. And what are the ones that are gigantic and super popular right now? Squishmallows. Yes, I definitely notice a difference with Squishmallows.
Because you can like hug them.
Yes, and even like I'll use it as like a pillow, and it's different for me. Not like a pillow in bed, but like let's say I have a pillow or a Squishmallow on the couch while I'm watching a show. Oftentimes the level of comfort I feel using that Squishmallow is different, and so I move into a rested state faster.
Can I talk about cats for a second?
Please.
We just got a cat. Yay. And her name is Mama Cass. She is also Mama Sass, depending on what's happening. She's amazing. But I actually watched this documentary on Netflix. I can't remember what it was called. It was a couple years ago. And it talked about how we've studied dogs a lot as emotional support animals and their regulation and how they help us regulate as humans. And they're great. They're amazing. I have 2 dogs. Nothing against dogs. But there's actually more evidence to suggest that cats are better emotional support animals. But the research hasn't been done.
Oh. I love that.
So.
Super interesting.
Yeah, I don't know what it is about like the nervous system or I can't remember all of the details. But now that I'm becoming a crazy cat lady, I'm definitely going to look into it.
Absolutely. Please do. I love that this is your current hyperfixation.
Oh, yeah. Totally a cat. And Zane's very into cats. He responds to my stories about the cat.
Which is so funny because he would never say that to your face.
Well, sorry. I just put it like on the...
I didn't even know he responded to your stories about the cat. So now I'm here for it.
2 of them. Not one. Like this is... we've had multiple cat conversations since I've gotten the cat. The funny thing too about Tim is Tim... does not like cats. That has always been his thing. He does not want a cat. And so when we got the cat, I had a difficult time because there was a lot of feedback like, but Tim hates cats. And it's like, Tim doesn't hate cats. It was Tim's idea to get the cat, first of all. But like, he's obsessed with this cat.
Is he?
Yeah, obsessed. It's fun. It's fun to see him something he was so against. And so he'll be like, I don't like cats except Mama Cass.
This is the only one.
Yeah.
You want to hear a funny story about Zane and cats?
Yeah.
So when he was a child... Zane's neurodivergent, so let's just preface with that. He lived on a farm and they have like ranch cats or a ranch and like ranch kittens. Yeah. And he tried to nurse baby kittens with his nipple.
Did he like not, he didn't realize like milk
he didn't know. He was like 5 or 6. But
love this.
He was like found nursing kittens and they would latch to his nipples and like make biscuits on his chest trying to get milk.
Oh, I love this. Self-soothing with cats.
Disclaimer, please don't let cats latch onto your nipples.
Yeah, do not try this at home.
We're not doctors. Okay, next, a big old cry.
Oh, this is my favorite one.
This is a really good way to close the stress cycle. This is one of my go-tos. Like I'm frustrated anytime I pass my window of regulation. It is a cry. And people say, like, crying doesn't solve anything. Well, guess what? It closes your stress cycle.
Yeah, there's actually, like, hormones that are released through tears that communicate to your body, like, it's over. Have you ever cried so hard that at the end you're like, oh, I actually feel a little better? That is closing a stress cycle.
Yeah, or you're exhausted afterwards. Closing a stress cycle.
The second you start to yawn when you're crying, you're starting to become more regulated.
Yeah, close the stress cycle. And when we're talking about stress and the stress cycle, there's a difference in dealing with the stress versus dealing with the stressor. And your body, when you're crying, doesn't know the difference between dealing with the stress or the stressor or the situation causing the stress. It's just closing the cycle. It's important.
I was just going to ask to share something. And then I was like, this is my podcast with you, but like, I'm going to share. Okay. Something I've learned about myself in being more aware of the things I naturally do to close my stress cycle. So after reading the part 1 of this book, I wanted to see what I naturally gravitated towards, and crying is the thing. There's a point in my stress cycle where I will not regulate unless I sob.
Wow. Mm-hmm. That's so interesting. And great awareness about yourself.
So we had an incident. I don't know I had an interpersonal, which is my least favorite kind of confrontation. And I was assertive for probably the first time in my entire life with this person. Pretty sure they would never listen to my podcast, so it doesn't matter. And it created a lot of feelings. Like the conflict created a lot of feelings and activation, but then my normal response is to like run away from that and regulate. But this time I chose to be assertive, which I'm very proud of myself for. But that activated me more because it's uncomfortable for me. Mm-hmm. And so then I had like hurt on top of like anxiety about being assertive. And I got to a point where I was like trying all the things to regulate. And I was like, girl, you just need to take a bath and bawl your eyes out. And I did. And I felt so much better afterward.
I love that.
And that's when it like clicked for me. I thought back to like the major times in my life where I get so activated and I literally need sleep and crying.
Yes. Well, and I think this is a really good example of when we talk about why we get stuck, safety. Mm-hmm. So you sensed a threat, which is the uncomfortability, mm-hmm. right? Because our body doesn't know whether it's emotions or in life. Like that is the threat. Mm-hmm. And you went to flight. And that keeps us safe. But it does not move you through the stress cycle. Literally
how I survived my childhood is I would go to my room and shut the door and hide until things were safe outside or my mom forgot that she was upset at me.
Yeah, exactly. And so it makes sense throughout your life there's these patterns of behavior. But again, that act of safety keeps us safe but doesn't necessarily deal with the stress. So yeah. That's an example of more or less like managing the stressor, right? Because you removed yourself from the stressor, but not managing the stress and the stress cycle.
Yes. And I think also in the world we live in, it's harder to remove ourselves from the stressor sometimes than we realize. Because like this was a text message exchange. Like it was
it wasn't even in person.
No, it was like a text message exchange. And so that was like, because then it's like, okay, the texts were sent to me. Normally I would just not respond because that's my go-to. And then I would like regulate and whatever. But because I chose to be assertive back, then I am on 12 hypervigilant about if another response was going to come in.
Yeah. And that connectedness.
Yeah.
Versus like if you just had a home phone.
Yeah. Which is
and
like,
you called them.
Yeah.
And left a voicemail.
Well, and I think we'd have so much less conflict because people wouldn't be so freaking impulsive.
Yes. Just shooting off a quick text response or an email.
Or like all you people on
raise your
Facebook
hand if you've
comments.
ever been a victim. Yes.
Yeah.
To social media comments or parent emails or text messages.
You know what's funny? The thought I had when I was done sobbing in my bathtub was
that
my job has prepared me for this. My job has prepared me for this because my skin is getting, I wouldn't say thicker. I still feel things just as deeply, but I have more awareness in the moment that like, it's just someone's opinion. Like,
yeah, the more you do it, the easier it gets to manage and, mm-hmm. and move through because then you have the awareness of your responses also. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I think it would be great to talk about the 6th way to close the stress cycle and then close this episode. Mm-hmm. And then next week we can talk through how you know when you've closed your stress cycle and how we can support our kids in understanding and closing their stress cycle. Does that sound good?
Yes.
Okay. So the last one is creative expression, which I talk to people about a lot. So this supports and encourages big emotions. And they talk about this from an evolutionary perspective of storytelling. So when we use expressive arts like painting, writing, dancing, we're doing storytelling, mm-hmm. which is an evolutionary way to encourage big emotions and then encourage us moving through that emotion, kind of like movies do, right? Where there's like something happening and then we're moving through, I think of Encanto right now, where we're moving through all the emotions of that and then it comes to a resolution at the end.
You thought of Encanto and I thought of Taylor Swift and Zach Bryan, so I don't know what that says about it.
So yeah. No, but it walks you through the experience of the, like it's starting the experience of the emotion and then completing the emotional cycle. So in this way, like literary or visual or performing arts of all kinds gives us the chance to celebrate and move through them. And it's almost like a cultural loophole in society because we're so often told that we shouldn't be feeling or we're not allowed to feel or it's not socially appropriate to feel. But guess what? In my short story where Linda gets hit by a garbage truck, like it's totally Linda. It's totally appropriate. No, those are my short stories. But that is one of the ways where it's like you can create your own reality and it is almost like a visualization, like a meditative process of allowing you to move through and close the stress cycle. And I have clients that do that through writing. I help clients do it through like drawing or painting. I have clients do it through songs, which I think Taylor Swift, is very powerful in her lyrics.
Yeah.
And also in dance.
Yes.
Or performing arts. So take advantage of that loophole.
Yeah.
Okay, real quick. The 6 are breathing, positive social interactions, laughter, affection, a big old cry, creative expression, and then everyone's least favorite, physical movement.
Yes. And your least favorite works the best. Just remember that.
All right, guys. Catch you next week.
Hey, Lindsay here. The thing that gives me the most anxiety about raising my son is the fear that the world will try to force him to conform and become someone who is neurotypical passing. That's why in our home, we do everything we can to support him in just being his best self. If he needs to stim, you got it, buddy. If he's having a sensory meltdown, let's cocoon and cancel our plans. Being his best self means trusting himself in a world that will tell him being himself is wrong. That freaking breaks my heart for him. That fear used to paralyze me, but now it just empowers me to fight harder to change how we view and approach neurodiversity as parents. If I can give him a strong enough foundation of self-worth, he will be resilient and brave enough to be himself. That's what I wish for my child, your child, and every child on this earth, regardless of their neurotype. And that's why we created Responsive Parenting Your Neurodivergent Child, the video series. In this series, we break down how to determine your child's unique needs and how to parent them from a responsive approach rather than an approach that's focused on behavior and punishment. Because instead of trying to fit these kids into the world, we need to make their world work for them. And this course will show you how to do it. It's $20. Check out the link in our show notes.
Thanks for coming to Mindful as a Mother podcast. If you'd like more of us and Mindful as a Mother, you can find Paige at Instagram at Parenting with Paige and Lindsay at Linz_Adams LCSW. Find us on TikTok, Instagram, and in our Facebook group, Creating Community and Smashing Parental Stigma, Embracing Mindful Motherhood and Positive Parenting. Thanks so much and see you next time.